It's now been 50 years. I know you've said in those moments, you don't necessarily remember running up to the balcony, but then you were there and you were looking into the eyes of Dr. King. You were looking at his face. And I heard you say the whole time you were remembering the words he had just said, that he may not be there to carry out the fight. Walk us through those moments again.
I arrived at the hotel. We were actually going to the diner for catfish. When I got out the car with Mary Hunt, James Orange, and Jim Bevel and Morrell McClellan were all with us. And as we were headed toward the diner, Dr. King came out on the balcony and was chatting with people down below. He had asked Ben Branch to play his favorite song that night. And folks were just laughing. It was just a great moment. And then what appeared to sound like a truck maybe backfiring. I never took my eyes off of him, so I'm watching him being lifted up and thrown back. I don't recall how. I just remember being at his side. I stepped over his body to the wounded side. I knelt down and tried to get a pulse, and barely anything was beating. So I unbuckled his belt and the button to his pants, trying to aid him in getting air. I indicated for someone to get towels out the linen hamper that was on the balcony, and then I removed myself so that Morrell could put the towel on his neck and try to slow down the bleeding process.
As you think back to that moment and to being there by his side, that must be a moment that you go back to, especially over these last 50 years and on a day like today. Has your impression of his impact changed in these last 50 years?
I feel like things have changed. It's difficult doing this particular day and last night because of the media coverage and remembering his speech and then playing back the scene that you continue to see in newspapers and magazines on the TV. It's difficult during this period. But it's more difficult now, I think, than before, primarily because we have circled back to where we may have been 50 years ago as far as what's just and right for God's people, all of God's people, and not just a selected few. Economic inequality was an issue in 1968 with sanitation workers. Economic inequality is still an issue today. Criminalization of people of color, maternal health care, our educational system. Here in the city where I live, we have predominantly African American high schools now. So I ask myself often, where do we go from here? It has to be through love, building relationships with other people, and trying to make a difference and speaking out. We have to start speaking out.
Is there some